Hey, hometown. It's no secret that our culture is divided and polarized, maybe more now than it's ever been. It's Democrats versus Republicans. It's Black Lives Matters versus Blue Lives Matters. It's COVID-19 is a huge hazard versus COVID-19. Oh, that's overrated. It's America's got huge problems versus no, America's great. Well, here's a couple juicy quotes I heard on social media lately about masks. Wear a mask. This pandemic is serious. And then I read this. In 4 months, the U.S. has almost been transformed into an obedient socialist country. The government dictated what social events were acceptable to attend. Riots are okay, but churches, they're dangerous. And on and on and on the rhetoric goes. There's something that drives this polarization, I believe, and it's fear. Be ready for it. There's going to be a lot more of it as we approach the election because you can raise a lot of money and you can get lots of votes if you promote fear. If the socialist wins, he's going to take your guns and it's going to be the end of the world. If Trump wins, gun violence will accelerate it and it will be the end of the world. The money pours in, votes pour in, all driven by fear. Hey, you know what? You can pour gas on any issue. What's exactly that we fear? Well, I think we fear loss of control, or loss of freedom, loss of our culture, or loss of progress, or loss of our health, or loss of our job, loss of a bad economy. And as Christians, we can be manipulated by fear without even realizing it. Fear is powerful. It can fuel conflict and create division, even in the church. Nothing divides like fear. And may we be humble enough to know our own hearts. May we be introspective enough to know that we're being affected by fear. One of the most common commands and promises in the entire Bible is do not fear, for I am with you. Of course, that's God who's saying that. We are not to fear. But fear is hard to detect. It's not an outward sin. It's not an outward action. It's not like stealing or lying. I mean, you could tell pretty quickly when you're stealing or lying because you see yourself doing it. But fear is an inner sin. It's an inner attitude. It's an inner disposition. It's like jealousy or hate. It's on the inside. It's more in our thoughts than it is in our actions. But we are to be just as vigilant about our inner life as we are about our outer life. Unchecked fear will overwhelm our desire to love people. Unchecked fear will lead us to say things that we regret later. Unchecked fear will propel us to make bad decisions. In fact, about any decision we make based on fear will be a bad decision. Christians are not to be driven by fear. So we need to know ourselves well enough to know whether or not we're being tainted by the fear mongering that's occurring in this world or whether we're trusting God. I mean, He's with you. There's a verse I want to leave you with, and it's from the prophet Isaiah, and it's in the backdrop of the coming invasion of Israel by the ruthless Assyrians. And God says something amazing here to Isaiah, and He's telling Isaiah to live differently from the Israelites who are being swayed by fear. This is Isaiah 8, starting in verse 11. It says this, the Lord has given me a strong warning not to think like everyone else does. God's people are to think differently. We're not to think like everyone else. Next verse. God said to me, don't call everything a conspiracy like they do, and don't live in dread or in fear of what frightens them. When people fear, they make up conspiracies. I mean, isn't that true? There's so many conspiracy theories these days, mostly driven by fear. And we're not to be tainted by the fear that frightens others. We are to be a different people. Next verse. Make the Lord of heaven's armies holy in your life. He is the one that you should fear. He is the one that should make you tremble. He will keep you safe. So what's the lesson for Isaiah? In the chaos that was descending on Israel, Isaiah was called to live his life before God rather than before man. God is so great that he commands heaven's armies, and just one member of that army, one angel in that army, can defeat any human conspiracy, any scheme of man. We're so weak, but God is so strong. Our life ultimately rests in the hands of God, not in the decisions of men. And do you believe that? Deep down, deep inside. Who looms larger in your mind and heart, government or God? And don't ask that question superficially. Ask it deeply. Find out if there is fear lurking in your heart. Then choose to trust God. He'll keep you safe, even from COVID, and even from the coming election. Have a great day.